Hey everyone, welcome to Floating in Dreams. This is a new video you're watching all about my eyeshadow palettes that I bought in the second half of 2021. There's quite a lot here, so I don't want to ramble on for too long, so let's just get started. Welcome if you're new here, and welcome back to those people who are not that new and who have been subscribed for a while. Hi, let me introduce myself. My name is Mike, in case you didn't know. And I love eyeshadow palettes. That's my favorite thing to chat about. And so if you love eyeshadow palettes, then welcome to the club. I also really like chatting about new Essence and Catrice releases because I happen to live in the Netherlands and we get the releases quite quickly. So I like to chat about that. And I am someone who likes to keep things real, i.e. I tend to film in natural lighting as much as I can. I try to get the use out of my products. I try to make all of this lovely makeup that we see around wearable for every day. That's what I'm all about. And if you would like to join the Snow Angel Club, because you are, like me, fair-skinned, and you've got a cool to neutral undertone, which influences my makeup preferences quite heavily, then you're, of course, very welcome to join the gang. So today, like I mentioned, eyeshadow palettes. For those of you who haven't been here, I have been sort of lumping my purchases together of the first half of the year and the second half of the year. So if you're interested in seeing my first haul of 2021, check the description box down below. There will be loads of other links there as well, because some of the palettes I'll be showing you today I've already used in videos, did blog posts on, like I've already got swatches and things up for quite a few of these actually. So what I have noticed, however, at the start of the year, I set myself the goal of only purchasing 2 palettes a month. And I'm just going to say it, I failed miserably, like miserably. There's like failure and then there's this. And I know what kind of happened. And that's because for a number of reasons, I create content on YouTube and there are just certain purchases that I make precisely because I'm like, oh, that could make a good video. So you will find, that's actually what we're going to start the video off with, that there are quite some purchases here that I bought solely because I wanted to feature them in a video. Then there are brands that I purchase from. Very often they are US-based indie brands, but also, for instance, a brand like Colourpop that are a little bit harder for me to get. And unless I lump things together, it's just not worth it in terms of shipping and like the time you have to wait for products to come my way. So that's why I tend to sometimes just lump a lot of items on my wish list together and place a larger order in one go, which makes it a lot more like wise, money spending wise. And then we just have a bunch of fun purchases as well. So that's going to be the 3 categories I will be featuring today. So let's get cracking. Let's get started then with the thing that I know for sure I have content with, and that is the limited edition eyeshadow palette collection that Essence and Catrice did together with Disney. So they did a collab. They've been doing this for a number of years where they bring out a joint collection surrounding a certain theme. And last year, just like this year, it was Disney collab as well. So they did Disney princesses this year, where Catrice focused on a number of princesses and then Essence did some other ones. The Essence were far better quality than the Catrice. My favorite of the Catrice ones was the Belle. And this just had not that great quality in terms of the shimmers, which were quite flaky and they needed a lot of layering, so I wasn't a huge fan. It was an okay palette, but I welcomed you to the Snow Angel Club, and I tend to like quite light things because anything that's too dark is just going to make it look like I was punched in the face. However, this is almost too light for my liking, and all of these palettes suffer from that. So this is what the Belle looks like. Then Pocahontas is a little bit deeper, but it's very, very monotone and just not that interesting color story-wise. It just isn't. And then we have the Ariel palette, which, again, not that interesting. They've done these like coral kind of palettes with Ariel on the front like for the 3rd time in a row now. No. Like I said, the Essence ones were my favorite of the bunch. if you're looking into getting these, if you can find these in your territory. I'm not a Catrice and Essence representative, so I have no clue about availability and where you can buy them in your country. I get lots of questions about that all the time. Trust me, I don't know. I just buy what I can get my hands on in store. The Jasmin was my favorite here because it has this really lovely purple and gray color story, but you still get a little bit of depth, and you do get a little bit of variety in the shades, and all of these palettes from Essence come with a really good shimmer formula, and they have at least one duochrome in every single palette, which I think for such an affordable brand is great. The Rapunzel, like the Pocahontas palette, is the most boring one. This is the same sort of rosy tones, only this one leans cool toned and the Pocahontas one leans more warm toned, but it's very sort of monochromatic and samey. And the Mulan impressed me the most. However, since I'm not a huge lover of very orangey shades, this kind of went a step down, but in terms of quality, I think this is the best one. You get some really interesting color combinations in here as well. So I think it can appeal to a lot of people, so I'm not writing this off completely. But you'll see in a minute that there's another color story that Catrice actually came out with that's actually quite similar to this. And I tend to prefer the Catrice one a little bit better for me. So that's why this one, even though it's lovely, I prefer the Jasmin just a little bit more. So let me then get to that palette that Catrice released as part of their fall-winter release that they did over the, I think they came out with it in August. And it's the Pro Slim eyeshadow palette in Natural Spirit. And this is what that color story looks like. So it's a little less vibrant in the oranges and yellows, but you also get these like khaki greens that the Mulan palette has. So I really appreciated that. And I now have all 6 of the Pro Slim palettes, and I also did a video where I reviewed and rounded up the entire collection that we have gotten over the past couple of years and show you all of those palettes. So again, I'll make sure to link that video in the description box in case you would like to see swatches and looks that I did with all 6 of those. And more Catrice products, because Catrice, when they released the Natural Spirit palette, also added 2 new 5-in-a-box palettes to this line. So I believe in the US you can now get the original 4 that we got, I think, about a year ago, and we got 2 new shades. So we got Blue Smokey look, which is my least favorite of the 2 because it's very gray heavy, and I dislike cool tone palettes that are too gray and that don't have a lot of other things going for it. The blue is okay, but I wish that this was, for instance, more of a navy, and they actually replaced this, or they actually discontinued another palette that was my favorite in this line that also had like a similar vibe, but then more taupey leaning, and I prefer that a lot better. So that was the Modern Smokey look. And that one I liked a lot better than this. And also the quality of these new 5-in-a-box palettes, especially in this gray one, I feel isn't quite the same as in the original 4. My favorite of the 2 was Vivid Burgundy look. And this is a really cute color story in terms of warmth. It really reminds me a little bit of that Huda Beauty Naughty Nude palette that came out about a year ago. It really gives me that sort of vibe, but then in a cute little 5-pan. And on me, for instance, that burgundy shade didn't pull very red, but as it sheared out and I blended it out, it looked more like a pinky red. So it ended up looking really stunning on my complexion. And because I've got brown eyes, it really sort of made this very sort of rosy, pink-toned, reddish look. It was really stunning on. And this I found the quality a little bit better of than the other one. Again, if you're interested in seeing a video where I review all 6 of the 5-in-a-box palettes that I have, I did a video all about that in the fall time. So I'll link that down below as well. More Essence and Catrice. I told you I like trying the brand. Essence released 4 of their little mini palettes over here. There are 2 that you can buy in the US that we don't have yet, which is the taupe one and the coral one. And these 4 I also featured in a 10 palette review video. So again, the link will be in the description box down below if you want to see swatches and looks that I did with these. My least favorite of the bunch is the blue one, so the Ice Ice Baby. It's again very gray toned, and I just wanted a blue shimmer in here. All the shimmers you get are gray and or like silvery, and I just didn't love it. And the 2 blues you do get in here are very similar. So for me, it wasn't perfect. Just because it is warm toned, the Bronze This Way palette was just a little less interesting to me, but I think it can be a really great neutral palette for a lot of people if these are the kind of shades you like. Quality wise, I had no issues. And then the I Like to Mauve It. Mauve It was the one I was expecting to like the most, because this is me in a color story. I just wish that that gray was like a deeper purple to give it a little bit more dimension. But it does have some lovely shades. I really like this mauve tone transition. That was lovely. And my favorite ended up being the Dancing Green one. This was just, if you love neutrals, but you want to try color and you want to try greens on yourself, this is the palette for you. It's lovely quality, but it is like more like softer greens. It's not like wham bam in your face green. It's very wearable. And next up, I have a couple of palettes that I also did videos for. I tend to do a full face of fill in the brand every single month. In fact, I'm going to be stopping that series. I'm still going to be doing full face of, but I'm going to try and make it more of a mix of brands and sort of focus it more around themes rather than brands, because I have found that it just leads to a lot of excess of product in my makeup collection that I buy for these videos, and then sometimes if I don't end up liking it, I just never use it again. However, with both of these, I was actually really impressed with the palette. So I did a full face of H&M Beauty, and I tried this little quad, which is nice mauves, and this was really lovely. It's like cool toned, and it had some really good quality. I was pretty impressed. And then I bought this little palette in Vintage Rose to also try out, just to, you know, have some variety. So this I haven't used on my face yet. So this is a bit more pinky toned. Haven't tried it yet. And then I also did a full face of Kiko, and I did a full face of Kiko specifically for their Precious Rituals limited edition collection that they did over the fall time. So this is the Precious Rituals Vegan Eyeshadow Palette in Spiritual Pink 02. And this is what it looks like. And it was really, really pretty on as well. Very, very soft and neutral and great for everyday. I think a lot of people might like this if you just want to go for something soft and everyday. So again, videos will be linked down below. And then I've got a couple of palettes here that I bought thinking maybe I can use these in a video. And then either the videos I never got around to doing it, or I just never really liked the product enough for it to be featured. This happens as well. One of the things that I bought to try, because I was thinking of maybe being able to do a full face of Primark makeup. I thought that could make for like a nice change. But I bought some of the products and I struggled finding things that could really go with what I like. And I bought this ultraviolet eyeshadow palette, which looks like one of those Huda Beauty 9 pans, and it looks really pretty, like these soft pastely shades. But I swatched this, and it's just powder that just goes everywhere. It has no staying power. It's terrible. So I'm actually going to keep this around to have my 4-year-old niece play with when she's here, because she loves playing with my makeup. And I thought it would be good to give her a couple of products that I don't mind if she wrecks it completely. This is a good candidate for it. Plus it's very light, yet still fun and shimmery, which she likes. A palette that I bought that I did quite like the look of when I swatched it, but I just haven't gotten around to use it yet, is the Max & More Floral Romance eyeshadow palette. And Max & More is a brand that we can buy from like a budget, like dollar store kind of place called Action. And they have their own makeup line called Max & More. And they did this. And this palette was, I believe, €4.50. And I just need to show you this one shade. I mean, this shade right here in the middle. Like, do you just see that? It's a really, really stunning shade. So now I'm like, okay, maybe this is actually, like, do you just see it has a bit of like that brown blue kind of pigment to it? But a bit more cool toned as well. It's really pretty for something that budget. So I really want to try and use that palette at some point in the next couple of months. And then some palettes that I bought from TK Maxx because I was stoked to finally find this brand here in the Netherlands, and it's Profusion. I've heard so many people raving about Profusion, and I bought the Wanderlust because it just seemed to have some really pretty, like jewel tones, like with the purples and the greens and the blues and some warm tones. Like it just looked really, really pretty. And then they also did this all shimmer palette called Enchanted that I thought could make for a nice like change up. But first of all, these smell terribly. Like you can tell it's old makeup. And I swatched these, and I don't know if these have just simply expired because I only hear people raving about Profusion, but I'm not impressed. Like this was just as terrible as that Primark product. Like it had no payoff even in a finger swatch. So I'm like, I don't even want to put these on my face. Like I don't even want to try these. They look very pretty, but I was not impressed. Next up is my Colourpop purchases from the Black Friday sale. So, and a couple of things I bought over the summertime that I believe weren't in yet when I filmed my last eyeshadow palette haul video, so I figured I could stick them in here. So I bought a bunch of these like quads, so I'll show you those in a minute. And then I just got a couple of their 9 pans because those tend to be my favorite. I don't really like their bigger color stories. I've rearranged my entire Colourpop eyeshadow palette family, you could say. Like I've rearranged so many of them because they're just not perfect color stories, you guys. And I feel that way also about pretty much every single one of the palettes that I have here. So the 2 I bought over the summer, I mean, I just want to keep these around for the packaging. The Cherry Crush and the High Tide, these I already featured in a 10 palette review video. The Cherry Crush, I ended up really only liking this shade. So I think I want to try and keep this shade, but put some of my other like pinky reddish shades in this palette because I love this cardboard packaging from Colourpop so much better than the plastic. So I'm going to switch it around for sure. And then we have the High Tide. This was the palette I was hoping they would do. All teal. We get some like cooler grayish tones, and then we get some things that are a little bit more green leaning as well. And there's actually not a single shade in this palette that I would want to get rid of. But I actually have a couple of other teals in the Dream Street palette, which I still have. So now I'm thinking, like, for instance, this shade, should I take it out and then put some of the Dream Street shades in, or what should I do? So I'm not sure yet what to do with it, but this is definitely going to get switched around. Either I'm going to put these shades in the Dream Street, or I'm going to put some of the Dream Street shades into this palette because I love this packaging. And then this was a bit of an impulse purchase. I was not going to get this palette, but because, you know, with 30% off and everything else that they had going on in terms of a deal, I was like, if I'm going to place myself an order, I might just like throw this in. And it's the Or Kid You Not. And this, I kept hoping that Colourpop would give us a really good purple palette, and I think they might have done it. Again, I have yet to try it on my face, so I'm not sure if I'm going to love it. But this, together with some shades of the Why Not, I think will be pretty. And sadly, plastic packaging. And then I bought 2 of their newer releases that they came out with over the summertime and also in the fall time, because we all know I love cool tones. So the Off Quartz, of course I was gonna have to try this. You guys, I have to. I don't like it. I've swatched it only so far, and I like the shimmer shades in here, but I don't love the mattes. Like, these mattes just didn't swatch very well. So I'm not sure. So, yeah, I'm not entirely sure what to do with this. Again, like with the smaller pans, because I'm not sure if you can see, if I hold up the High Tide, you might be able to. Like, if I hold them together, you can see that these pans are bigger. So this is another reason why I'm now like, I'm just a little done with Colourpop. Because if they start doing this, it means you can no longer just switch out shades. However, in the Sprinkle a Little Magic palette, which they did, they have the same pan size. So I'm hoping that these are magnetic like the other ones, and I can combine the color stories, because also this one, once I got home, I just wasn't impressed by these greens. Plus I thought it was going to look a lot more woodsy. Like I had expected a bit more of these two mattes, but essentially they are like identical. So for me, these brighter greens, they're just not really a good match with my skin tone. So I think that I may want to take some of those out. This gold isn't really speaking to me either. So maybe keep the mattes in this one and then take out like these 4 shades, and then take the 4 shimmers from the off quartz and put it in this packaging. That's what I hope I'll be able to do, but I have no clue if these are still magnetic. They used to be magnetic, but the packaging is stunning. But yeah, this wasn't perfect. I had expected a little bit more. And then I got a bunch of these mini palettes, and this is really where Colourpop has just outdone themselves. I bought one of this line earlier in the year. I bought the cream soda quad, and I loved it. And so I bought the sorbet because this is their mauve one. It's more pinky, I feel, than mauve, but it seems very pretty. You get like some really intense shimmers and 2 mattes, which are really lovely. And then they also did a line with all matte ones, and this is the Dare to Bear, which I thought was cute, just to try it, but I love the quality of the cream soda one. And then they did this Zodiac collection, I think over the summertime. And initially these didn't really appeal to me, but then I started hearing people raving about them. So I decided to pick up the ones that appeal to me the most. And I believe this one I bought separately, and these came in a little set. And that's why I ended up with one that I wasn't necessarily interested in. But this is the Tender Loving Cancer one, and that was one I really wanted to get because it has this really stunning like duochromy, multi-chromy kind of shade. This shimmer is really interesting. You get this like mauve-y, peachy kind of crease shade, and really nice, deep, intense, plummy brown, my kind of shades. And it's my Zodiac as well. So, and I keep these in the box because this way I'm able to tell them apart a little bit more easily. Plus, I just love the packaging. I just do. And then this was the one that I wasn't necessarily all that interested in at first glance. This is the Never Tore Us Apart. And this is warm tone greens with like a khaki matte and like a warm brown and this like really soft gold. And then this I thought was just going to be a gold shade, but it's actually a duochrome with a green flip. So I'm in the end quite happy that I got it, because I think this may be one that a lot of people might like. So, but that one was sort of extra. And then the one I really wanted to get, and this is why I got the set, because this was out of stock as a single, and so I bought the set because then I could buy it straight away. And this is the Like a Virgo, and this is the Sorbet one, but then a little bit lighter, and it's got a stunning duochrome. And then we have Head Capricorn in Charge, and this is the most cool toned one that they do. This has some lovely taupes, and you know how I feel about taupes. So this has much better mattes than the off quartz. Right, so now we are moving on to the fun stuff. We have 3 categories here, which is luxury, sort of like Sephora high-end brands, and indie. So I like buying palettes for fun, to try them out, to try new formulas, but also to try different color stories from brands that I love. Some of these I haven't used yet. Some of these I already did use and already featured in videos. So I'll show you what I got in the luxury category first. So my next purchase is a bit of a cheeky purchase because this wasn't planned. I ended up buying a couple of items from my wish list that I wanted to get from Charlotte Tilbury when she did her Black Friday sale. And one of the things that she did as a deal was that you, after a certain amount you spend, you would get a free product. And there were like different tiers, and you got a couple of free products if you spend more. So I decided to just buy everything that was on my wish list. And it ended up getting me the Walk of Shame eyeshadow palette. So I didn't pay for this. I kind of did because I got a lot of Charlotte Tilbury stuff. But yeah, this is the Walk of Shame, which I think is a really nice one. I wasn't sure about this, but it seems to be like, it's quite warm toned, but it's quite pinky red. So I think it's actually quite similar to what the Catrice 5 in a Box is going on, but then in Charlotte Tilbury sort of quality, I hope. I haven't tried it on my face yet. And another thing that I wasn't going to buy, but then I spotted it in store. It's got fingerprints all over it. The Dior limited edition Christmas quad, or quintet I should say, in House of Dreams. I mean, the only problem is I swatched these, and these 3 shades, when I swatched them, looked identical against my skin tone. Like, it looks like these are like different versions of like a darker and a lighter taupe. I'm not sure what it's going to look like on my eyes. I still have to try it. I really liked the one that I bought last year from their Christmas line, which was called Black Night. I actually quite enjoyed it. So I saw Michelle Wong talking about it, and then I spotted it in store. And then for Black Friday, they had a 25% off deal, and I was like, might as well get it. That's something that wasn't a Black Friday sale haul, but the minute this palette was announced, people started tagging me in this. When the news of this palette leaked, people were already tagging me in it. Natasha Denona Retro. The mini retro I got over the summertime. Oh, I didn't feature it in here. Oh no, I should have put it in here. I also got the mini retro. I finally bit the bullet on that, but then she released the bigger one just a few weeks later, and I already used this, and I put it in my, showing you all of my Natasha Denona palettes, so I'll make sure to link that in the description box down below. This is lovely. I wasn't sure about her cream to powder or creamy matte sort of situation, which is, for instance, this shade over here. It's got a very strange texture, but I really liked it. And for those of you who are thinking it may be too warm toned, this is really the only warm tones you get are sort of in this corner over here, but it's a bit like that Walk of No Shame palette from Charlotte Tilbury, that depending on your undertone, I think if you have a cool or neutral undertone, that these aren't going to show up as warm as you might expect. At least they didn't for me. Like, they pulled more pinky peach than they did going into like warm roses, if that makes sense. And then these were December purchases. These were the only things I kind of bought over the Christmas period. I was like, I've bought enough palettes this year, but I just couldn't pass up on these 2 new releases from Viseart. So they announced the Kashmiri, and a lot of people were like, I was very much on the fence about this one. So this is the Kashmiri palette, and I kind of bought this because I really like the Violette Étendue, which comes in the same sort of format as this palette. It's one of my favorite palettes I tried all year. I think I got it at the, like, also December time last year, and then I tried it this year. And I really, really loved it. But what was holding me back was that depending on the pictures I saw, this looked very warm toned or very cool toned. So it kind of threw me for a loop. And then again, Michelle Wong featured this in a video. Really, the only 2 very warm toned shades you get are these 2. So if you take these out of the equation, you've got a lovely, really lovely, very smack down in the middle, neutral palette. That's got some coolness, it's got some rosiness, and then it just has some really lovely neutrals along the top. So you get warmth, you get rosy, you get cool, you get just really good neutrals in here. And that's why I ended up buying this, and the swatches of this, like, Viseart quality has really, really swayed me. Which is why this happened. I saw this over on Instagram and I hunted it down straight away, and I bought it off of Beautylish. I don't even know if this is available in Europe yet. This is the Viseart Paris Étoile Petite Pro palette. This is smaller pans, but do you just see? I mean, you get this lovely, like, tealy navy, a really deep plum, some really, really stunning shimmers. And what's really great about these Petite Pro palettes from Viseart is that you get 4 mattes and 4 shimmers. And this is just a really lovely, deeper, cool toned color story that it doesn't have a single, like it has charcoal gray, but they're more like navy leaning, like they've got a blue undertone and they're not too light. And then you get these like taupey things. And you've got like the plumminess like this. This is a very nice roundup, and like look at the packaging. Look at that. Oh, it's so, so pretty. And then in terms of luxury, what we're gonna end it with is Mother Pat. I got some Pat McGrath things over the past couple of months, and especially this big guy, which is the Divine Rose 1, had been on my wish list all year. After trying the Divine Rose 2 last year, I put this on my wish list. And I was just waiting for a sale to happen. And like last year, what happened is that in August, she did an end of summer sale, and that's when I picked this up. So I didn't buy full price for this. I find Pat McGrath far, far too expensive to be paying full price. But I tried it already, and it's not my favorite Pat McGrath palette. It is my favorite of her rosy toned things that she's done, but there are a couple of things in here that aren't necessarily perfect for me. So there are, for instance, I'm not a big fan of these two shades, you could say, but those other 8 I do really like. So I ended up loving it enough. I mean, I do really like the Pat McGrath formula. And so when she did her Black Friday sale, the only thing that was really on my wish list was this. I spotted this in store in Paris over the summertime. This is the Venus in Fleurs Look Squad Voyeuristic Vixen. I keep calling it the Fleur Vixen palette. That's not what it's called. I've kept it in the box so that I can tell it apart from the other quads I already own. And this is quite warm toned. But like, I'm just loving these like burgundy plummy kind of shades. I'm just really into it. It's got a stunning like oh, can you see that? It's got a stunning shade there. And for once, there isn't a gold. Hallelujah. So I did cave, and I bought the other Mothership that came out this year. This is the Mothership 9 Utopian Dream. Like the pack, like just for the box you want it, right? And when I got it home, I have to say, am I happy I got this in the end? Did my late night belligerent makeup spending brain make sense in the end? I won't be able to tell for sure until I put this on my face. But it's sort of like if the Divine Rose 1 and the Divine Rose 2 went and had a baby and we put in like these icy lavender sort of shades. These two shades are really stunning. Again, it's these two shades I'm not too sure of, even though this bottom one, I'm not sure if you can see, if I can show you, it doesn't really pick up, but it seems to have like a bit of a greenish, like tarnished rosy bronze with a green flip. So I do appreciate that. It reminds me a bit of that Sex Terrestrial shade in the Divine Rose 2. But these 6 shades I really like as well. So next up is the smallest category of this video, which is my high-end, like Sephora standard boring brands that we all know, that we secretly all love, but that do get a lot of flack sometimes for some of their releases. So one of the brands I wanted to feature in this category is Zoeva. And Zoeva actually did away with every single palette they've ever done in the past, even those chocolate bar palettes that you used to be able to buy. And they're now really targeted as, like, they're really sort of marketing themselves as a more sustainable brand that's very inclusive and all that jazz. And they came up with 2 new palettes over the past couple of months. And I was able to buy both of these on sale in a Black Friday sale. Zoeva usually does a pretty good sale, but I bought one of these on Beauty Bay, where I think the brand was 25 or 30% off. And the other one I bought through Douglas, which was 25% off as well. So I got the Together We Shine palette. I'm not mistaken, this came out first. And this is what the palette looks like. It's a really stunning, like pinky mauvey neutral tone palette. The only thing I didn't realize until I got home is that out of these 10 shades, there are only 3 shimmers. And it does go really nicely from like very light to deeper and more warm toned. So I like how they sort of try to put that in there. So you do get a little bit, that's great for everyone. But I'd have liked 2 more shimmers in here, just to be, you know, just to be fair. So I think the Together We Grow is going to be a lot better for me. And this is a stunning neutral palette where, again, you get something very neutral, like smack in the middle. You get some warmer tones and you get some cooler tones. So it kind of does everything in one go. It also goes deep enough for people with more like medium skin tones. And these cool tones, do you see that it looks like they've got a bit of a green flip to it? So I think if you have olive skin, this may be a really lovely palette for you. So this is what I'm much more excited for because you get 5 shimmers. And then Urban Decay, both of these releases, I think, they didn't get the hype they deserve, in my opinion. I mean, Urban Decay Naked 3 is one of my all-time favorite palettes till this day, right? I'm not gonna lie. So when they came out, finally, after all these years, they came out with a mini. I was like, I'm all over it. Where the Naked 1 and 2 minis were all matte, you do get 2 shimmers in here and 1 satin. So I think that's a nice change. Is this incredibly fair? Is this going to work for people with dark skin? No. But if you love a cool tone mauve neutral and you have sort of my complexion, this is it. The Naked Cyber, which I haven't tried yet. And I can already see why this is not going to be my favorite Naked palette because this shade is far too orange for my liking. And it's like the only thing you can really use in the crease. I'm pretty sure I could use this and this, but I've said it many times before, Urban Decay needs to stop putting peachy tone shades as their mattes. Like all of the palettes they've done, like the Naked Cherry, the Naked Ultraviolet, a lot of the lighter mattes they've put in those palettes are peachy shades. No, just make them browns and it would have worked so much better. But I am still interested in trying some of these like duochromes. They are more wearable, like everyday duochromes. It's very much that Y2K. Like I remember wearing these kind of shades when I was in my teens. Like this was the kind of makeup I could buy when I was like 14, 15. So it's definitely very much a throwback for me. And I can't wait to put this on my face, but the packaging is just absolutely amazing. And then the palette that I was using, and then I sort of had to take a break from wearing makeup altogether, which is why I'm not wearing anything today. So the Tartelette Juicy palette was the one I was testing out. And I still have to do a look with this pinky tone row at the top. I picked this up because I wanted to do a ranking of all of my rosy mauve toned eyeshadow palettes. So some of these are going to come up in a video in January. By that time, I hope to be able to go back to wearing makeup again. I haven't worn makeup a single time in the entire month of December. So this is still on the to try pile. I'm gonna try and add like some of the other things I haven't mentioned yet. But it's got a really lovely like neutrally row, and then you've got this warmish row and this pink toned row. It's just that it looked more neutral online than it did once I got home. It's far more warm toned than I had expected. And finally, in my Sephora Boring Brands Roundup, Rose Quartz by Huda Beauty. Of course I had to get this. I mean, it's cool tone taupey shades with mauve tones. Really the only warmth you get is up here, and then you've got some pinky tones here. It's got some gray tones, some lovely duochromy shimmers, and then a Petri dish shade, which I could have done without, but at least we don't get any pressed glitters. Hallelujah. So for me, this, I've said it in my recent favorite winter palette video when I featured this as well. I think this may have replaced the Urban Decay Naked 3. And then we're getting to the very excited bit, which is all of the indie palettes that I bought. I'm gonna try and go through this quite quickly because most of this I haven't actually tried. and I'm just gonna talk you through it. So over the fall time, a subscriber of mine contacted me saying, would you like to join me in buying from Midas Cosmetics, which is a brand she knew I still wanted to try, but they have pretty high shipping for making it, you know, sending it to the Netherlands. So I picked out 2 of their palettes, which is the Unveiled Cool Neutrals, that's what this is called? No, Cool Nudes, Unveiled Cool Nudes, which isn't that cool toned, unfortunately. And then the Smokey Glow palette, which also, when I swatched this, a lot of people were raving about this when it came out last year. I don't think I'm gonna like this. I wasn't too impressed with the swatches. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think I like my Pat McGrath stuff a lot better to get these kind of looks. I also wanted to get some more BH cosmetics, and I was a little late to the game buying these, and I haven't yet tried these on my face, but I kind of bought these because either they got a lot of hype or because I tried similar palettes from these lines from BH and I just wanted to get some more. And that's one of their new travel palettes and one more of their Sweet Shop palettes. So the Sweet Shop palettes were a little bit difficult to get for a while, but on the German website, they still seem to be available, at least when I last checked. And this is the Bubblegum, which is the blue one. And I just figured out that I didn't have a really good like single blue palette. And so I bought this. And this shimmer right here, this tealy blue, is stunning. I already tried the pistachio from this line and I really loved it, which is why I wanted to own that. And then everybody was going crazy for the blueberry muffin last year. This year it was the Passion in Paris. Again, I'm very curious to see what I think of this. I felt the blueberry muffin was far too gray toned in the neutrals for it to really be my favorite. I love the blue shades in it, but the neutrals just were a little bit lacking. I still love the Love in London the best, but they've discontinued it and it hasn't come back yet. I'm still, fingers crossed, hoping they'll bring it back. But yeah, this seems to be like a good like variety of like purpley, bluish shades, some cool tones, these berries up top that apparently also pull a little bit like pinky rather than very warm. That's what I've heard. So we'll see. Then one that, like the Pat McGrath Divine Rose one, had been on my wish list even beyond the start of this year. I think this palette has secretly been on my wish list ever since it was released. But because I owned the stack of the Melt Cheese and Parties, I didn't want to get it. But I caved. I ended up purchasing it. It was out of stock on Beauty Bay for like the longest time, and I ended up purchasing it. And the reason why I wanted to get it is because the original Cheese and Parties has this shade, and then this, and then I believe this guy and this guy. So you don't have this, you don't have this, and you don't have these like lighter two shimmers. And that's what makes this palette for me. Like this is a bit more cool toned. And these two are really light. And the Cheese and Parties was always just a little bit too dark for me. And this palette, I hope, I haven't tried it yet, but I hope that it's going to solve my issue and just give me a really good like monochromatic mauve tone palette that I love. That's what I hope. Then over the summertime, I heard Nikki Raven talking about this UK indie brand, which is Unique Beauty, which is spelled with EU, so not just with a U, but EU, I believe that's how you pronounce it. And they do these little palettes that you can buy as a set, and then it looks like a magazine when they first launch, and then later on you can just also, you can always buy them separately. So I got 2 of them. This is the Pamper Me and the Bubble Time, which I believe came from the same collection. And this, I mean, I was intrigued. Like these shimmers look out of this world. Amazing. And this Bubble Time one has like the blues and the greens. I've swatched these and I was super duper impressed. So I can't wait to try these on my face. And this fragile little friend over here is the Perky Lavender Chinchilla. I already mentioned this in my recent winter palettes video as well. Mine came a little bit broken, so I have to be very careful with this and sort of keep it flat and not mess around with it too much. But this is what the color story looks like. It's very gray, and it's very sort of purpley, but the quality of this looked so stunning. I'm so glad I was able to finally get my hands on it after Dutch Postal Services just being a pain in the butt. But the brand was lovely all the way through, and I can't wait to put that on my face. More summer purchases. Over the summertime, we got a lot of hype about this palette, which is the Lowest Cosmetics Meet Me at the Underworld eyeshadow palette. And this restocked, I think, in July, and I was like, shall I do it? This is another UK-based indie brand. And then this is what the color story looks like. It's really pretty. You get like these rosy tones, like mauve rosy tones over here, and then this is more like earthy green vibes. It's really stunning, good quality. The shimmers weren't my favorite. I already have a review up with this, I believe. So this I already tried, and it was lovely to try another new indie brand. And then another new brand that I decided to buy from was this brand that just has the best aesthetic on the planet, which is Game Beauty. And I bought these palettes. They did a deal when they released their Victory palette over the summertime, where if you bought all 3, you got free shipping. So that I thought was a pretty good deal. And now I'm just waiting for them to do another couple of palettes and for me to try these to see if I like the quality, because that new release they did over the fall time, the Harbinger, is that how you pronounce it? That looks really stunning. So I have the Adventure palette, which is the only one with a pressed glitter, which this is why I hadn't tried this brand yet, because I don't love pressed glitter. And I thought that all of these have pressed glitters, and I wasn't sure. But you get some like fun pops of color and then just a lot of greens in here, which I thought was fun. And then the second one they did was the Fantasy palette. And the Fantasy palette is more like soft pastel-y shades with quite a lot of blues. So that has a cute color story, but I've heard that the pastels aren't the best, and that their quality became better in the Victory palette. And this, it's warm tones, but then you get these teals, and also that white shade has a bit of a flip to it. So this isn't necessarily what I go for usually, but because I just really was intrigued with what they were doing and what they were all about, and I love how the colors in the actual packaging are sort of represented in the palette as well. I think it's really stunning, and I love their aesthetic. And then a brand that I did already try in the past year was Beauty Bay. I bought their Book of Magic in the Black Friday sales last year, and this year they released these two, and I didn't want to be left out. So I bought the Wilderness after it got a lot of hype and it restocked. And yes, I think that if you have this, if they still do it, and you missed out on the Melt Gemini, the Melt Muerte, and the Melt Smoke Show or Smoke Sessions, this palette gives you all 3 of those palettes in one. You get some of the reds and like the intense like navies you get in the Muerte with a couple of those greens. You get the sort of green shades you get in the Smoke Show, and then you also get some of those warmish olivey greens and yellows and browns that you get in the Melt Gemini. It's like buying 3 Melt palettes in one go at a fraction of the price, because the quality of Beauty Bay shadows in the Book of Magic was lovely. These swatched lovely as well. It's very intense. And then they did the Age of Opulence for their Christmas collab, which I hate the packaging of this. It's really dinky. But the color story inside is just everything you need for like deeper, more saturated colors that I think can really nicely complement the Book of Magic. So the Book of Magic is much brighter, and it doesn't have, for instance, like this teal here in the middle is calling my name. You do get a lot of bronzes and golds in the shimmers, like this and this and this and this and this. Like it all looks quite the same. So that I think I'm not loving as much about this. The final indie brand that I wanted to try some more of is Nomad Cosmetics. I already bought the Tokyo Harajuku in 2020, tried it, liked it okay, but didn't necessarily fully just understand the hype. So when they did this earlier in the year, the Land of Fire and Ice, Yeah, this is Iceland inspired. And I couldn't say no, you guys. I bought it over the summertime to try the formula again, to see if it was just something in that Tokyo Harajuku palette that I didn't like. The quality of this is amazing. This doesn't have any of those like weird satins that the Tokyo Harajuku has, which is what I prefer, I guess. And then, of course, I live in Europe. And if you're going to do something this gothic-y, the Nomad Cosmetics Haunted Europe palette. I've kept the box for a reason because I think it's just stunning, and it's quite big. Like, it's got this lady that shifts. I'm not sure if you can see the shift, but it's lovely. And then this, warm, cool. It's stunning. And again, seems to have really lovely quality. None of the weird satin shades I wasn't a fan of in the Tokyo Harajuku. This is everything I bought since July. Some of it purely to create content with. And there will be loads of links down below in the description box for you to have a look at these. If I already have videos up with these, you want to see them more close up and you want to see swatches, and sometimes I already have looks and all that. So I'll make sure to put all of that there. Thank you very much for watching today's video. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more by me. I make 3 new videos a week usually. However, I'm a little shaky on the uploading schedule right now. I mean, it took a while for me to film today's video, you guys. I'm definitely a little bit out of it still. But yeah, I'm gonna try and keep this train rolling because it just brings me so much joy to read all of your lovely comments in the description box or in the comment section down below. And yeah, I'm just going to wish you a really happy new year in case I don't speak to you anymore before that time. My next video is definitely going to be my like best makeup of 2021. That's what I still want to do. Hopefully I can get that video out before the year is out. Fingers crossed. If not, it will be the first video to go up in 2022. So I hope to see you in my next video. Bye everyone.